Every magic trick consists of 3 parts, or acts. The first part is called the pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary. The second act is called the turn. The magician takes the ordinary something and makes it into something extraordinary. But you wouldn't clap yet, because making something disappear isn't enough. You have to bring it back.
GameStop is one of the most compelling asymmetric opportunities in the market today. Really, I don't understand how you could disagree with that. But based on prevailing sentiment, the market, and popular culture, many think it's a foolish investment. But everyone's wrong! Positive fundamental developments, a potentially massively bullish chart, and an exorbitant short interest suggest to me that an upward move could be explosive.
I think it's probably well over 60 million at this point. They were all sold puts, deep in the money, for lots of money. Someone bought 29,000 40s today, that news, and it was just, we erupted. Fucking, whoa, shit! Everyone just, I love this shit, man. GameStop is at $30.70 in overnight trading. It is 8:43 on the East Coast on with Thursday night. No Kitty tweet, so Kitty watch did not happen. The price action is wonderful, but Kitty is doing some shit on X.
Oh, hey, Roaring Kitty, good to see you. Unpinning that, unfollowing Ryan Cohen, and removing the information from the bio section on his profile. You know, those all have one thing in common: it's the removal of something, right?
Maybe he's saying, I'll do it myself. All right, let's fucking go. Let's do this shit. All right. 3, 2, 1. Thanks everyone for checking out the show. I'm Sean Fitzy.
I'm Paulie.
And this is half of the Echo Chamber. Yeah, Chuck isn't here. Echo isn't here. It's a kind of last minute.
Yeah, you're stuck with us.
Yeah, you got the two of us tonight. But there's so much happening today that we decided that we probably should get together, get something out. It's not going to be anything too crazy long, but the chart, GME was 10% up today. Kitty was active on X.
That's a pretty good day.
Yeah, it was a good day. And then we're sitting here before we even started the show. We're talking about all the action on the option chain, and all of the puts and everything's going on right now. So I figured let's just get this sucker started. So, but you're having a good day, Paulie?
I'm having a great day, man.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. I was supposed to be off. It didn't work out. I went in for 4 hours. I got someone to come in for the rest of the night because I wanted to come home and stare at the chart and talk about GameStop. I know your port had a good day. My portfolio had a great day.
Right.
Calls printed, y'all. Anyone who had calls did very well. I don't know. We can talk about it in a little bit, but we were talking about that a little earlier too. Just take profit. If you have calls, watch out for the short dated shit. IV went up. IV's over 100 right now. So, it was up 20 points today. That's the quickest way that they can rug somebody when it comes to calls, that's for sure.
I feel like we talked about that on our last show.
Yeah, probably. I feel like
I know we talked about it at some point. I don't know if it made it into the show or not.
Well, we talked about we did. We talked about the heartbeat trading post. I tagged him on the show post too, because that's such an awesome post, and it was pretty well timed. So
because he did such a great job just kind of covering how fib levels work in general and how to trade a diagonal structure, all that great stuff. So as a reminder, folks, if you haven't watched that yet, now's a great time to get a crash course on how to trade diagonals and how to read fibs and all that good stuff. So the key is, everybody has to take profit at some point. So one thing that you and I were talking about too is that sometimes taking profit doesn't necessarily mean getting out. Sometimes it means rolling. Sometimes it means leaving runners on. So I mean the key is you have to have a plan. don't just go in blind. And so like just one thing I'll maybe share is that one plan you could have if you're working with multiple options is that I'll just share one quick example. Let's use 3 as an example. If you have 3 options, then if you get to a point where you are up 50%, consider cutting 1. And then if you get up to a point where you are up 100% on your remainders, consider cutting 1 more. Now you have a runner that no matter what happens to it, you have made money on your entire position. You might still consider putting a stop loss on that runner so that you don't let it go to 0. But and I don't know, we're always like, what's a stop loss?
Yeah, what's that? I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah, right. But
again, don't take advice from us when it comes to that shit. Go ahead,
right.
sorry, Paul.
But the idea is that if you have a plan and you trade it and you go into it with that plan, then you're much more likely to have success in the end instead of trying to just fly by the seat of your pants. So, that's just one thing to consider. And, if you can kind of figure out your runner math on different scales, and, if you're working with 3 calls, 4 calls, 10 calls, 25 calls, whatever, if you're that kind of high roller, hey, more power to you. But if you're working with multiple calls, even if you're working with 2 calls, then have a plan. So if you're working with only 2 calls and you get to 125% profit, try cutting 1. Hey, cool.
Yeah.
You've made your money back. And if you're only working with 1 call, you can still have a runner, and that is by rolling. You can roll up and out to a higher strike, or even at a higher strike at a longer dated call. Because if you're receiving a credit when you roll that call, then you have taken some profit. But if that credit isn't more than you paid for the original option, then you're not really taking profit and calling it a runner. But if the credit on rolling it is more than you paid for it, then that is a true runner.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know what you mean.
Those are just some things to consider.
It's a new position once you close it out and start a new one. I'm no longer red. I'm green now. As soon as I open that second position, take profit. Even looking at today's chart, so GameStop is at $30.70 in overnight trading. It is 8:43 on the East Coast on what is today? Thursday night. This is crazy.
Yeah. May 22nd.
Yeah, no kitty tweet, so kitty watch did not happen tonight. But there was all kinds of kitty stuff, and we'll get to that. But I was getting ready to say is that even on days like today where we're up 10%, we trade 21 million shares, we still have pullbacks. There's still going to be levels that we hit. A lot of the time it's, previous highs. We follow GameStop follows trends a lot of the time. So, like I said, I think I said last show, I like watching gaps. I like watching triangles, and I like watching volume. And we got all 3 of those things into action today. So there was opportunity to sell if you had a call. Just one, even sell, and then wait for a pullback and then come back in. If you're playing the shorter dated, you could really make some money doing that stuff, but you have to be ready to lose it all if you're playing like 1 or 2 expirations. Right. So
yeah, and if you're not sure like where to spot those pullbacks, like throw some moving averages on your chart and just start watching them. Like just watch to see where price bounces. Like throw some volume weighted average prices, the VWAPs on there. See where price reacts. Watch and study where those points are, and you might be surprised what you can learn.
Yep. And then just always take profit. If you're up 100% on something, you're up 100%. That's my rule now. It's like I don't care. Even if I think it's going to keep going, I'm going to close that, see what happens. Take profit. You can get back in. There's always going to be a pullback with GameStop. I know your brain will tell you there's not, because my brain does it to me all the time. Oh, this shit's mooning right now, but you will get a pullback. You just gotta, you just gotta wait for it. So, Yeah,
Yeah, and we're coming up on some pretty key resistance pretty soon
yeah,
if we keep going right. Like the volume weighted average price from the all time high is sitting right around that like $33 level. So
yeah,
that has come down significantly over the last year. It used to be in that $36, $38 range. So I mean that's going to be the mother of all resistance. But once you turn something like that into support, I mean, let's go, right? So,
yeah,
but I mean, we have been sitting right under a box for a while right now, and we got some very important action today. And I
yeah.
mean, our closing price today was 30.86. That is really really important. That
Yeah.
is $1.01 above the conversion price of the bonds,
When was the last time we closed over 30 too?
right?
It's
Yeah.
got to be
I mean,
January. I mean,
I'm looking at a daily chart right now, and it appears to be January 7th.
yeah, looking,
Might be the last time we had a daily close of over 30.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so we got the two gaps. Well, the gaps are on January 13th and 10th. So I think, and then we ate shit on the 14th, right? And we're at 30. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
We
either way,
did have we had a daily close at 31.02 on January 13th.
yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And then the 14th, everything went to shit. that was after Greg fucked the cake. But we haven't been
Yeah.
like back up here. That whole level, where we topped 29.81 after earnings, that level has been unbeatable for like all of 2025, and we're almost halfway through it.
Mhm.
So, I
Yeah.
said something about it earlier today. Is if we can get through that,
Right.
and with some volume, we have a shot at
Mhm.
that gap, and we did both things today. So we got in
Right.
after hours trading. We touched, what did we touch in after hours? 31.90 in after hours trading today, by the way. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and it's pretty cool to kind of look at all of that like on the daily chart just with nothing else on the chart to just look at that gap that we made on 11.8 million shares down. That was a 10.12% day down on January 14th.
yep,
And we made that back up on a 10.02% day on 21.45 million volume. Made back almost all of that gap. Like, I mean, there's only like a few cents between the bottom of the wick on the 13th and where we ended
yeah,
today.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean that is something. I mean, just when you look at the symmetry on the chart there,
Yeah, you're
it's
right.
yeah,
It's that.
it's pretty cool.
It's kind of that inverse head and shoulders we've been talking about too. It looks like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just getting ready to finish up and take off. So yeah, we got the gap. We closed at 30.90. Well, 30.86, I guess. Right? Yeah, 30.86. So the gap at 31.77. We got through that in after hours. That would be filled at 32.29. So that tomorrow, first off, if we hold that close, which was really strong, abnormally strong, that came in because of a whole bunch of options at the very end of the day. Ultimator had a post, but we'll get into that in just a second because we're gonna look at the option chain. But if we can hold that, 32.29 is gonna be a monster level. I would expect us to fight around that, and then after 34.40, who fucking knows, right? I don't know. Like it's we have not spent very much time past that at all,
yeah,
at all. So
yeah.
there's
I mean
not.
that's going to be mostly price discovery, um,
Yeah,
and
you got to go back
that's
to like
yeah,
21, and even there we weren't
yeah.
very, very long in that range. So
Yeah, it wasn't true price discovery at that point, right?
yeah,
That's so short lived, and you got the turning off the buy button, all that going on. So
yeah, crazy
there's
shit.
there's a lot to be said about how we have true price discovery yet to occur on GameStop.
Yeah, and it's a completely different company with a shitload more money. Bitcoin, by the way, is at 111 right now, so 111,699.
Yeah, tapped
All-time
112
high.
today
Yeah, all-time highs.
on Pizza Day.
On Pizza Day, I didn't know that would.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know Pizza Day?
No, I didn't. I
Okay,
like
so
pizza.
yeah. So
Oh, wait.
Pizza
Okay,
Day,
what is it?
15 days ago, the very first commercial transaction for Bitcoin. First time that anyone ever used Bitcoin to pay for anything. So as a computer programmer, he finally convinced someone to accept Bitcoin for something, and so he
Yeah.
on May 22nd in 2010 was able to buy 2 pizzas in, I think it was New York City, for 10,000 Bitcoin.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Pizzas were valued at approximately $41 at the time.
Yeah.
And the transaction fee on that transaction was 99 million sats, 99 million satoshis. So that transaction fee today would be worth approximately $110,000.
Yeah.
And
That's crazy.
and the pizzas, the 10,000 Bitcoin would be worth about $1.11 billion.
Yeah, just crazy shit. I hear stories about people losing,
Yeah.
paying in the early days, paying for stuff with Bitcoin over the internet, and
Yeah.
it, 9 Bitcoin, they're less than $1 each, just dumb shit. And now they don't know
Right.
where the
Yeah.
change is, and the change would be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's a wild time. So, I think we're both
Unbelievable.
very confident that RC is bought at this point. I feel like that. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You said that yesterday or in the last episode, pretty much too. So
Mhm.
who knows? Who knows what it? There's all kinds of ways. Paulie's been digging in a whole lot that could be going on, but I don't know if this massive move on Bitcoin is priced into GameStop at all. It is still May. We are getting volume on May, OPEC settlement week. So, we'll need to see more of this to think it's anything more than like a settlement kind of run. But on the back end of this, we got our earnings. And that's where, we can see something crazy on the filing.
Yeah.
So that's when I would expect this. So, who knows how this is going to go? Who knows what's going to happen with Kitty and the option chain? So yeah, I guess those are the other 2 things. Do you want anything on the chart you wanted to talk about before we kind of move on to other 2 things?
Can I show a chart? Can I analyze a chart? I feel like I can analyze a chart. It's not a science. Can I look at the chart a little bit? Check out that chart though, huh? Can I do charts real quick?
Charts.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that line right there. I mean, no, we used to do charts. We used to do charts back in the day. I think it can be fun. Let me just get to the chart real quick. Wait, can I draw? Hold on. Let me see if I remember how to do this. Oh, I do. Right there. All right, look at that. Look at this. It's like jumping up and jumping down. That chart was just bullish.
So one thing I'll note, just in terms of what developed on the chart and what we saw happen today. So like yesterday, we did have sort of like a symmetrical triangle that I had been tracking, and yesterday GameStop sort of violated that triangle. It had a higher trace up and then a lower trace down, and so it actually drew a larger triangle that turned into more of a ascending triangle. And then today, the pre-market action was tracing sideways and forming a gap up in such a way that I was like, wow, it's kind of respecting this new triangle that it formed yesterday. And so I kind of noted this morning that the pre-market action was honoring the new triangle that had formed. And then it did not take long at all before we just busted through that. In fact, it was, kind of zoom in here. We were at the top of that triangle I'm on the 30-minute chart looking at it, and yeah, the 9:30 to 10 a.m. candle had a wick above the top of the triangle and had a close at the top of it. and then the 10 a.m. to 10:30 candle was the breakout. So
Yeah.
like that was it. Like it did not take long at all. Like the breakout really truly started in earnest in pre-market.
Yeah, I mean, we opened a
And then
percent
it
up,
just
I think.
yeah, and then it just kept going. And
Yeah, they
so
left a
I
gap.
mean we had yeah, and then I mean we had that like 2 million shares traded in the first half hour of the day,
Phew.
and then it just kept going. I mean that ended up being 10% of the volume on the day,
Yeah,
just in that
yeah.
first half hour.
It was wild, bro. Like I was trying to get ready for work. Sorry, I'm getting ready to move on. Go ahead. Anything
Yeah,
else there?
no, you're fine. Yeah, I mean just like
Okay.
there's just a lot of encouraging price action there.
Yeah, it was the chart was looking beautiful. We started seeing the in the money puts come in again. Those have been coming in now for well over. Well, we were getting the 125s back in November, all the way to January. People always want to say that's not very good, but then you look at the price action from when those puts were coming in, and all we did was just go up. When those puts stopped right around mid-January, we were just talking about it on the chart. It went to shit. So 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe now at this point, I can remember things based on what I put in our intros now. It's like, okay, what did it? Because we were talking about
Right.
the 95s coming in out of nowhere, and so that was a couple weeks ago. So those all they were all sold puts, deep in the money, for lots of money. So there, a lot of collateral was required, but whoever's doing this is getting a lot of money back to do with as they will. So when this happened a couple weeks ago, we started seeing some 20s for June come in. I was very excited about it because that's Roaring Kitty's favorite shit right there, the June 20s. That's what he was buying at this exact time last year. He was loading up on June 20s, June OPEX 20s. So, anytime we see that, it gets exciting. And then we started seeing hundreds and fives, all deep in the money. That's how that ended. I think last week was a little quieter, but then this week it started happening again. It took a little bit of a break, and then today it happened in a way. So just looking on the in the money puts, let me just pull that chain up real quick, just so I can say what we have on there. January 2026 is where they're happening. It's all the way down. I mean, they're at $45 now. The $45 strike. There was 1,000 of them today. Those actually look like they might have been sold, but there was another 1,000 at 55. But really starting where the big money is, it's in the 85s, 90s. 95, there's 2,700. The 2,100.
Those 1,045 puts looked like they were bought today.
Yeah.
Bought, not sold.
Yeah, on the 45s, yeah. But then look at the 55s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know what the time. I'd have to look at
55s loading.
There's 1,000 there.
Yeah, that actually might have been a spread if it was at the same time. So that was in 1220 to 1225. Those were all at the bid.
Yeah.
So yeah, someone may have done a like a bull put spread.
I believe it, and we'll get to June option chain in a second because we saw some other stuff there.
Yeah, they were both in the 1220 to 1225 p.m. range. So that looks like it was a bull put spread from the looks of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the 125s have a $3,500 open interest. Those I'm not sure. They're heavy towards the sold side, so bullish. I'll say it like that instead of bid and ask. Heavy towards the sold. So, if a put is sold, it's bullish.
Yeah.
If it's bought, it's bearish. 3,500 on the 125s, 2,100 on the 105s, 1,000 on the 100s. This is a lot of money. Millions and millions of dollars premium. I think it's probably well over 60 million at this point. That this person is getting back to spend with how they like. And then like if, the price gets up above, 100, wherever these strikes are, they just fucking they get the money. It's great. And then they get whatever they bought with the premium too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think, we've sort of had this maybe maybe it's a new theory, maybe it's not, maybe I'm just playing catch up, but these puts being sold deep in the money for leaps, they made me start thinking about that meme where the bullet has to have been dropped
Oh
before
yeah.
before he's picked it up, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And
Arcane said something about that today too.
right,
What is that
yeah.
movie? What is that movie?
I'm not even sure what movie it comes from.
Instinct. It's from when they
Yes,
go.
yes, yeah, that's what it
I
was.
might be
Yeah,
saying it. Yeah.
yeah. And so, but that actually was the 56th out of 110 original posts that Roaring Kitty had posted. So it was like right at the midpoint. So
Oh yeah. Nice.
yeah,
I like
that's
that. We need to.
kind of an interesting nuance
Yeah, we need to do our
about.
video so we can get into that
I know.
kind of shit.
We gotta get into that. There's so much to do.
Yeah,
But
there is. And no time.
I
Like really
know.
no time at all.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is a little bit of like in one way, out the other. Which ones? Which I don't know. I get what you're saying when it comes to that meme.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Because in order for those, because like when you sell a deep in the money put, it is a bullish thing to do. Like when you sell puts in general, it's a bullish thing. But selling those can, I guess the way it really works is that it may initially have some sell pressure, but not for long. And so there's this like cause and effect duality to it where the put seller gets to collect all this premium up front, and then if the price goes down because they are forcing market makers to sell shares, then they can just pick up calls cheaper on the other end of it. So it's
yeah.
almost like they're creating their own pressure relief valve, and they could later end up getting those exercised, and then the market makers are forced to deliver them shares, which they'd be happy to have.
Yeah, we saw that recently too, right?
Right.
The 125s got like swept
Mhm.
out.
Right. Or the price goes up and it goes up and it goes up until those are worthless, and they just get to keep the premium and the cash that was used to secure them. And they ended up buying calls at the bottom as well. So yeah, it's just kind of an interesting theory on what may be happening there with those puts, especially with the volume that we've seen them come in at.
Yeah. So like you spend $10,000, just say they're whatever $10 each. Yeah, is it 10? So it'd be 10. Say you spend $10,000 to secure the put, and then say you get like I don't know 9,000 back, probably a little less than that. 9,000 back to do with what you want. That put gets up over to become worthless. You get that 10,000 back, and you have whatever you spent that money on. If it was calls, if you were flipping calls, you're just fucking using it. Whatever you wanted to do with that money, you have all that too. It's just like it's an
Right.
awesome play if you are very confident that those things are gonna
Yeah, if
go in the
if
money.
you end up being directionally correct in the end, then yeah, it works out.
Yeah, but who knows what's been going on because like there's a lot of intricate things happening. Like you're talking about spreads. The 125s, they're not all bought. They're not all sold.
Hmm.
You know, we're seeing a lot of. Well, I mean, Kitty knows what he's doing, so I think
Yeah.
he's just making money in the meantime. Yeah, so on the put side, we've been seeing it. I think it's Kitty. We've said it already. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's someone with massive money.
Yeah, I think a good chunk of it probably is. I think other people are probably jumping in on a similar strategy maybe, because I think it's a smart thing to do, especially
Yeah,
when you can see the price action, and we're not the only bulls out there. But there are a lot of folks out there with heavy bags that can be deployed. So, you know, Kitty's not the only one that can play that game, but I do think that there are certain markers out there that just, he's somewhere in the options chain. We just may not know exactly which ones are him.
I think it's definitely some of the 20s. If you just go to the June 20s,
Right,
it's probably a popular in the money strike, but there's some big buy numbers in there. Some $4 million days. May 9th, like 4.6 million in premium.
Yeah.
Not like 75%. So, today we saw that again. We saw a bunch of 20s come in. We saw 40s as well and 50s all for June. So 29,440s, 25,700 50s, which those were not bullish. Those look like they were sold calls. The 40s look like they were bought calls. And then the 20s, get up there, 7,700 in the money, like pretty deep in the money at this point. Well, so that's the open interest. There's only 751 today. So that one wasn't as big, 751,000. So, I'm always looking at that chain. That was a lot of money, though. Right. Like it was all part of one play.
Yeah, it could have been. So sometimes it's hard to tell. Sometimes you can tell just by the timestamps, but I mean, on this, everything happened so fast, and like I had to go to a meeting tonight and just got back in the door right before we started recording. So some of this is hard to say definitively, but
oh yeah, there's all kinds of shit happening, dude, and it's calls. Yeah, I know.
And I feel like part of that is a little bit of the strategy here too. Is that last year it was a little bit too easy to tell that Roaring Kitty was building the position he was.
Yeah, but there was still so much doubt.
Sure.
I think last year, because it'd been so long, it was almost like for a while there, you weren't. If you said you thought it was Roaring Kitty, you were laughed out of the place.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I feel like this time, and of course, all of this could get blown out of the water if he just starts, building a very deliberate position tomorrow or in a couple of days, right? But I feel like this time he may be trying to be more discreet. So it's
till
hard.
We get that.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and just maybe he's just gonna pop out of nowhere. There'll be a filing, and there'll just be like 17 different strikes on it. We don't know, and it'll be like, oh my gosh,
maybe
like
just fucking 100, 125. Yeah,
right. Yeah, because I mean, you look back at his post history on the YOLO updates, and I mean, he's had some really like long lists of different strikes and everything that he's been in. So I mean, he's not necessarily like a tunnel vision type guy. So it would not surprise me if he ended up just dropping a like, hey, look at my gamma ramp, like kind of position. And I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is we really don't know what he's gonna do, but what I am confident in is that he's up to something.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Like people want to say that, like, oh, he won't play in the money. He doesn't play high IV. None of that shit. He plays everything. Like you're saying, he plays in the money. He plays out of the money.
Mm-hmm.
He plays super high IV. We weren't sure it was him last year up until like after he came back, and then this week last year when he was buying the 5,000s, he hadn't dropped the YOLO update on us, but we all knew at that point those 5,000s we 100% knew were him. So I think maybe we're at the other phase of it where we're like, oh, we think this is Kitty because it's big numbers, and who else plays GameStop like that? Because it is. Don't be fooled. This is big money. Like.
Mm-hmm.
They're making, so if it is someone messing with us, they're spending a lot of money to let us all make money let us all make money, because I made bank. So
jokes on them.
Yeah. So
sorry I made my monthly salary in a day, I guess.
Yeah, it was a fucking great day.
Yeah. Not
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, not at all. Like I dropped the I dropped the Kermit meme today. Like, what? Why were you late from your boss? Watch your mouth, roaring kitty please. Actually, no, I lie. I said that wrong. He didn't tweet, but we did get kitty activity on X today, which
Yes.
we're saving. That's at the end. I don't know. Tinfoil seems to make its way to the end, but that's like that's the lead of the day in my opinion. The calls are great.
Yeah. Got to bury the
That's
lead.
one. Yeah, right. The price action is wonderful, 10%, but Kitty is doing some shit on X. So he did three things. He deleted his bio, so he's got no bio now. He unpinned his bull thesis post. It was a 12-parter post. He had part 12 pinned.
Yep.
Which has a link to his bull thesis short squeeze video. We'll see. It's about 5 minutes long. I'm going to try to tack it in here somewhere, so you guys might get to listen to it. We'll see if I can get to it.
GameStop is one of the most compelling asymmetric opportunities in the market today. Really, I don't understand how you could disagree with that. That's why it's the top position in my portfolio and also Dr. Mike Berry's portfolio. But based on prevailing sentiment, the market, and popular culture, many think it's a foolish investment. But everyone's wrong. It's like the Big Short again, or more like the Big Short Squeeze this time, right? Anyway, let me show you what we're seeing. Still in 2020, GameStop maintains a healthy market share within the gaming industry. It's the only major brick-and-mortar retailer dedicated to gaming, and a recent survey indicated that over 25% of people buy their new games at GameStop, and 40% of people buy their used games there. Its reboot plan is well underway, and it's comprised of two main components. The first is optimizing the legacy business by right-sizing costs and improving the omnichannel experience. This will boost near-term free cash flow, which in turn can be used to finance the second, more important component, reinventing itself as a premier gaming hub within the thriving $150 billion gaming industry. GameStop's modernizing stores, partnering with vendors, and offering experiential products. This is the potential upside, and it's enormous. They've been testing 4 stores in Tulsa, Oklahoma that focus on live experiential concepts. Clearly, the new management team is laser focused on gaming, and Frank Hamlin, the chief customer officer, wants GameStop to become the cultural center for gaming. They also teamed up with the Dallas Cowboys with the GameStop Performance Center. This space was uniquely designed to be the premier facility for the next evolution of esports. Imagine a handful of these venues around the world where gamers could come together to train, perform, and just hang out. So could this new management team actually pull off the transformation? It's possible. They've been doing mostly the right things over the past year. Plus they have Michael Berry's support. You're really going to question the guy who gets his hair cut at Supercuts and doesn't wear shoes? Shit, I'm not. But what about the death of physical discs, you say? Let me tell you something. People have been saying this shit for a decade. And do you know what Microsoft had to say about this at the start of this console cycle? Millions of people still want discs. Period. It's a big reason these new consoles have disk drives, and that's why physical will remain a part of Microsoft's future. To be sure, the shift to digital is happening, just not as quickly as many people think. It's true the pandemic may have accelerated some long-term trends, but as stores are opening back up, people are buying physical discs again. And a quick reminder at this point, GameStop sells other items besides physical discs. This helps drive traffic and will allow it to offer exclusive console bundles to its 60 million rewards members this fall. That said, the used games business has driven the lion's share of historical free cash flow, so let's focus there. We know how Microsoft feels about physical, now let's check in on Nintendo. In their latest pandemic-ridden quarter, a whopping 44% of game sales were still physical. And this is huge for GameStop because the Switch has surged in popularity this year, and I assume its used games have as well. And in particular, Animal Crossing New Horizons was 50% physical. And after having sold over 20 million units in just a few months, that's now one of the top-selling video games of all time. So how about Sony? During the same quarter, 26% of full game sales were still physical. Now the year-over-year decline is certainly notable, but two things here. First, as stores reopen and new consoles roll out, this figure will likely bounce and stabilize for a few years. And second, even just a 26% physical share is still meaningful, considering GameStop generated over $1 billion in free cash flow in the early years of the last cycle. And also, it's important to remember, this is not a zero-sum game. From April to June, video game spending was up 30% year over year. That's a massive benefit to physical, digital, and the whole damn industry. And that's why Sony and Nintendo have been boosting their expected output this year. More consoles and a much larger video game lineup than the last cycle means more software and accessory sales as well. And this is a boon to a specialized gaming retailer like GameStop, who will also benefit as the go-to destination for folks trading in old consoles and games as part of their upgrade to the new consoles. Now, obviously, this thesis is based largely on the fundamentals, but shit, GameStop's chart is looking increasingly compelling. And this matters because if the price breaks out, technical analysts who don't even give a shit about the fundamentals will start piling on. To add to this, GameStop is by far the most heavily shorted company in the market, with short interest of around 100% of the float. 100%! Can you believe that shit? The combination of positive fundamental developments, a potentially massively bullish chart, and an exorbitant short interest suggests to me that an upward move could be explosive. Maybe. What the hell do we know?
So he unpinned that, And then the big one, I don't know if it's a big one, the one that's causing the most controversy is he unfollowed Ryan Cohen as well. All of that, I say it was hectic because Grim Thuggy came into the Discord and dropped that news, and it was just, we erupted. Fucking, whoa, shit. So we sent it out. Everyone just, I love this shit, man. Everyone's just firing off like screenshots so we can find out that he actually did follow Ryan Cohen, because I kind of had forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's because, I don't have.
Yeah, and it turned out to be exactly 9 months to the day that he followed Ryan Cohen and then unfollowed him.
So wait, so he followed Ryan Cohen 9 months ago?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, because it turns out there are enough degenerates out there who track this.
Yeah. Well, that's how. Everyone's like, well, when did it happen? It happened today. Like, there's no way that shit didn't happen today, because
I guarantee you there are hundreds of people who check that every day.
yeah, two of us here on the right now. Yeah, we noticed that shit quick, so it happened today. So, I guess we could kind of touch on each one. Well, I guess I already touched on the bull thesis being unpinned. I don't know when it got there.
It had been up there for at least a year, if not longer. I mean, it's probably longer. For as long as anyone can remember, I think that.
Yeah, so like my passion for his memes and stuff. Of course, I loved everything in 2021, but it was, I really got crazy about it all and his feed and everything. Yeah, he was gone for 3 years. So yeah, so I couldn't tell you what was really probably going on his pinned post prior to maybe for sure April last year.
Right. Yeah. And we went into a little bit of detail on that post and the thread that it's about in one of our older shows, and just the fact that he wrote that in August of 2020 after Ryan Cohen and RC Ventures had filed their first Form 13 on GameStop. And, he really just kind of put together this really early primitive thesis on what Ryan Cohen had done at Chewy, what he thinks it means for GameStop. And I mean, honestly, it looks pretty prophetic still.
Yeah.
And if you just go through and you just replace Chewy with GameStop and what they do and what GameStop does, it's still applicable today. And I think he had back then a pretty good understanding of who Ryan Cohen is, what he does, and what he could do for GameStop. So, I think he had a pretty good handle on things then. And it's really, really interesting. So, unpinning that, unfollowing Ryan Cohen, and removing the information from the bio section on his profile, those all have one thing in common. It's the removal of something, right? And we've seen similar patterns from Ryan Cohen himself recently. The removal of posts, the unfollowing of Bitcoin Magazine, like that.
Well, wait, Bitcoin. He still follows.
Sorry. Yeah, he unfollowed Bitcoin. He's still following Bitcoin Magazine. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And so there's a little bit of this back and forth, and I think it's a completely valid theory to just look at this as this is nothing more than communication. This is not him saying I'm fed up with Ryan Cohen.
At all.
This is I think you and I and pretty much everybody in our Echo Chamber Discord are on the same page here. But I think for maybe some folks who are not quite as deep in the story or deep in the tin might go, oh my gosh, he's unfollowing Ryan Cohen. Maybe he's going to sell all his shares or whatever like that. No, that's not what this means.
for like a $4 profit. Well, I mean, he's way up, but his cost basis is like $23 right now. He didn't do all this shit to bounce. At $30.
Yeah, this isn't him giving up on they got an rock business. That's not what's going on here. And but I also want to point out that yesterday, someone posted about the fact that they had gone to GameStop with a Nintendo 3DS,
Oh
got
yeah.
got a trade-in offer for like $147, and they weren't expecting more than 40. And so they were
Yeah.
like, whoa, and so GameStop had, replied to that, which made the post go viral, and the guy's like, oh my gosh, why is this getting so many views?
Yeah.
And then GameStop in the middle of the night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, quote tweeted it and said, "Take the deal." So GameStop had already engaged with the post in the middle of the day, like 8 hours prior, and then they went back and re-engaged with it by quote tweeting it and just said, "Take the deal."
Yeah. That's
And
nice.
yeah, and that got me thinking, like, take the deal, huh? And I had already done all this math on, what does May 21st look like, against a bunch of other dates. And then I found out, like, okay, well, every date from May 21st to May 29th of this year, if you flip them around, it's the same.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I'm a numbers guy, and I'll go ahead and say I have not gone through, because I don't have that kind of time. But, but that did make me think. As soon as GameStop did that, I was like, oh, I gotta check a few things. And especially the fact that they had engaged on a post that had a 741 in it, because it was a trade-in deal for a 147. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I have to at least do a little bit of due diligence here. So what I found was that it was it was 741 trading days after Keith Gill's birthday. That would have been in 2022.
Yeah.
It was 147 calendar days after the day after Christmas, so the day after the gift box post. It was 1,471 days after Oops Moas, my bad. So that was May
That's just
12th.
crazy about it.
That was May
Yeah.
12th in 2021. And it was 741 days after May 12th in 2023. So there's just something interesting about that. So because of the way 741 and 1,471 go together, that's 730 days apart. That's just like a cool artifact of numbers, that 1471 and 741 are exactly 2 years apart from one another. So just so happens that Ryan Cohen posted on May 12th in 2023 that shareholders want cost cuts and no cronyism. And, this could all just be one crazy coincidence. But, GameStop posts take the deal, and then the next day Roaring Kitty does all this stuff.
Oh, yep.
You
Yep.
put it all together however you want, right? Like, draw your own
Yeah.
conclusions. But when GameStop says take the deal, and we see our first activity from Roaring Kitty since January 22nd,
Yeah.
which, if you want me to do the math real quick, that was 120 days ago. So,
Yeah. Yeah. He's
feels like not a
so
coincidence.
yeah, so take the deal, like take the fucking board seat deal.
Well, here's the thing, like the annual shareholder meeting is June 13th.
Yep.
If a board seat were offered to anyone between now and then, the term would expire at the meeting. However, you could have someone take a board seat after the meeting,
Yeah.
and that seat would be valid until the next meeting.
Yeah.
And so
I get it. Like
yeah.
Nat kind of, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and I'm not saying Nat's not qualified to be on the board, but he still hasn't bought any shares, which is puzzling. So, and I don't know, and maybe he will. I don't know. Like, and I want to be clear. Board policy allows directors 5 years to become compliant with the get your own skin in the game policy. So you get 5 years to get $275,000 down. So I mean that's pretty generous, especially for guys who have that kind of money. And anyway, the way the election procedures are drawn up in the documents that everybody gets, so like the annual shareholder document that everybody got, if you look at it, it basically says that if a director is elected and for whatever reason they can't serve or if they step down or whatever, then the board can just appoint someone else in their stead. But the same is also true that they can just appoint someone else to the board whenever they want. So
Yeah.
You don't even have to have someone like Nat or anyone else on the board step down or not get elected. Or, like, that doesn't even have to happen technically. They can have 6 people on the board. They can have 7. They can have 8. They can have 9. Like, they had 12 people on the board, or was it 13? They had 12 or 13 people on the board when Ryan Cohen joined it, because
overpaid executives.
right. Yeah, I think it might have been 13, because I think it might have been 10, and then him and he came with, it was
Elsie and Alan, I believe.
yeah. It was him, Larry Chang, and Alan Attal all joined the board at the same time in January of 2021.
Yeah, he got 3 seats.
Yeah, and so I think it went from 10 to 13 at that point, and since then he's gotten it down to 5. So
yeah,
except right now it's temporarily 6. So I do think that there is a distinctly non-zero probability that Keith Gill ends up getting offered a board seat at one point.
Yeah,
and that is high on my list of best case scenario outcomes.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
That would be like probably best. Like,
yeah.
As long as we're all filthy rich too.
Right. Yeah, because I think he would be a tremendous asset from an investment perspective. Yeah. I think he would just be absolutely would knock it out of the park. I think he would have the kind of impact on GameStop as oh man, I can't remember the guy's name right now. MetaPlanet has this guy who is basically their head of investment strategy. For basically timing their Bitcoin buys and everything. Like the guy's like a rock star. And
nice.
Yeah, and I have, for some reason I can't remember the guy's name right now, but someone listening would probably know it and be like, gosh, you're an idiot.
It's that MetaPlanet. Right. That's a good pull, anyways. No, Ryan Kitty for director. Director of investment? Fine. What would it be?
I mean, he could just be an independent director on the board and be a member of.
He's in charge of all of our investment. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm in committee with LC and RC, fucking making the moves. It'd be almost a year from the handshake meme too, if it happens right around the 13th.
That handshake meme was on the 11th of June.
Yeah, so that could be on the day of earnings if that's what they choose. Yeah. Maybe Nat buys on 6/9. Maybe they have earnings the week before and they all buy on 6/9.
Right.
Who knows? Who knows what's gonna go on?
Yeah.
I guess we'll kind of the other things that so we were talking about removing of the pin post, right? So the other 2 things was not following RC. I think. Well, I mean, we kind of like touched on most of it as we were going there.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think that may be a signal that he's ready to play, right? Because like the last thing he did was say, "I will wait for you," essentially, and now he's done things that essentially are more or less directed at Ryan Cohen.
Yeah, no, unfollowing is about as direct a move as you can do without like having a conversation. I can't. Yeah, that's a very direct action between you. He unfollowed him. Yeah, maybe he's saying,
and
I'll do it myself.
Instead of posting something, he unpinned something that was about Ryan Cohen and his thesis on Ryan Cohen. And so exactly like you were saying just now. I think it is about the "I'll do it myself" component here, and I think this goes back to something that I've been saying for a long time, which is that when he originally posted that position with 9,001,000 shares, it wasn't just about copying Ryan Cohen or anything. I think he was shot, and he was putting everyone on notice. And when he said he's doing a requel, all this, like, he was setting us up, to tell us, like, look, I'm going to do what Ryan Cohen did.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and he's coming for 10%.
Yeah. That's what it would be.
And I think Ryan Cohen is prepared for that. And we've seen the Avengers meme, or the Guardians of the Galaxy meme. Everybody knows who's in charge, right? I said all the way back on April 8th, will we see someone else challenge Ryan Cohen's authority soon? Not in the true sense of the word as a CEO or head of the company, because I don't think that Roaring Kitty has any designs to actually run the company.
No, RC's doing a good
But
job.
yeah,
I'm okay.
yeah,
I'm okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody has their strengths, right?
Yep,
And
exactly.
and I do think that he wants to be involved in the company in a more intimate way. And so I said, in the sense of his leadership authority as the largest shareholder in the company. So I personally think that it's a matter of time now and getting very close before Keith Gill challenges him to a duel of who is willing to accumulate the most shares, and that would be a symbolic form of leadership among investors. And don't forget, GameStop acknowledged Project Rocket recently, and in that clip in the movie, the character who's observing the conversation between Thor and Star-Lord is Rocket.
Yeah.
And so, I think, the best case scenario for us investors would involve Ryan Cohen and Gill getting competitive with one another over who has the most shares. And then Keith Gill ultimately registering his intent to influence the company by flipping from a passive investor to an active investor. Like that would be the best way for him to make an impact. And
yeah, so if they
yeah.
go for 10% each, right? If they have like a little buy-in company,
Right.
because RC's at like 8%, so that'd be about 88 million between the two of them alone.
Right.
And then we're just looking at the institutional ownership now is up to, I think I saw 180 million, if not. So we're looking at 300 million of our 440 million float locked up there, on top of the 70
plus the DRS.
Yeah, the 75 million for DRS. And we are looking very tight when it comes to the rest of the shares outstanding. So yeah, I would be down for like a buying competition between the two.
Yeah, because in any other situation like that might be looked at as a hostile takeover attempt, but that's not really the case here, is it? Right? Like we know Roaring Kitty's bullish. We know that he's has been happy with Ryan Cohen. We know that he thinks that he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He's got this bull thesis on Ryan Cohen leading the transformation. So if all of that were to happen, odds of him being offered a board seat would be extremely high, and that he would actually be seen as a friendly, as an asset, and as an ignition point to rally the investor base. So,
man, I can't
so it would be an optical battle, right? Like it would be seen as a buying war between those two, but at the end of the day, like they're on the same team.
We should fight one another for the honor of leadership.
Not necessary. There shall be no knifing one another. Everybody knows who's in charge. Me. Right? Yes, you. Of course. Of course. Of course.
So, okay. So, we're failing at making this one.
Yeah, I know. We want to be quick, but
yeah, we're the last thing that he did, and I'll just read. He deleted his bio, so I'll read what it was: a method for hunting stocks and pouncing on investment opportunities live streams on Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 7 to 10 Eastern for educational purposes only. So had that and his link. Let me see what it looks like nowadays, because this is just like pulling up right now. So it just has his YouTube now, so there's no bio. So yeah, I don't know what to fucking take it. That's the only thing that doesn't really have to do with Ryan Cohen.
Yeah.
But you know,
you think about what he took away. He took away hunting. Took away, the
pouncing.
He took away hunting and pouncing. He took away things that he's looking for. Maybe he's found them.
It's another thing of like
took away live streams.
Maybe he's done looking. Maybe he doesn't need to follow Ryan Cohen. Maybe he's done looking and hunting for investment opportunity.
Oh man, I just had this cheesy thought. Maybe he's found.
Maybe he doesn't need that. Yeah, maybe he doesn't need that fucking
that song in my head.
What song is that?
Finally found what I'm looking for.
All right, I'm writing it down. Let's see if I can, because I have an idea for the intro already. I have a couple ideas, but
it's still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Because that's okay. I know what you're talking about. All right, we'll see. That's a good one too. All right,
you too.
Yeah, that is a good one. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's my favorite part of the show is figuring out. Well, I love talking with you guys and all that shit too, but I really like trying to do the intro and figuring out the songs and stuff. So, okay, cool. Well, Paulie, I appreciate you coming in last minute. I know you had shit going on, and so you came home and did this recording. We were talking while you're driving home on the way over.
Yeah, man.
We got to do what we got to do, right? Like, fucking cram it in. My one day off is tonight and tomorrow, but we're going to be watching GameStop right now, $30.70. Hopefully we'll have this out pretty quickly in the morning. Yeah. Thanks for checking out our show. We'll be back on Sunday with everybody. Unless something crazy shit happens, maybe we'll just start streaming all the time. Make enough money, I don't got to go back to fucking work. Right? All right. Bye, Echo. Bye, Chuck. Sorry you guys weren't here. We miss you.
Yeah, we'll see you this weekend.
Bye, everyone. Have a good one. Thank you.
Take care. We're always like, what's the stop loss?
Yeah, what's that? I don't even know how to do that.